Hello fellow gamers and welcome to a new series. My name is Captain Zedarius and joining me is Shark93 from the Battlefield 2 community Lost Soldiers.
Hello guys, how are you doing?
In this new series we are talking about what a new player should know about the game. You may wonder, why are we talking about this in 2021? And the reason is simple. Battlefield 2 is still a great shooter. Hundreds of players fighting each other every evening on big open maps with different community events and a modding community which is still developing new content. But of course, the most important question so many years after the release is, how can I still play this game? For that you must install the Battlefield 2 hub, a replacement for the official master servers, which went down in 2014. To install the hub you will either need your original disk version with the patch 1.5 or the version from Steam or Origin, which is already patched. Another technical tip is to improve the startup time of the game a little bit. This you can do by deleting or renaming the files you can see in the background. But it's nothing important, just a little time saver. Should you have any problems with the game or a mod, you can always find of course a helping hand at the Battlefield 2 Discord, Reddit or the Lost Soldiers community. Moving on to the general tips of the game. The first one is very important for us and it should be also for you, and that is, killing is really not the most important part of this game. Team plays. Be a team player, use the voice system, use the spotting system and help other players. They really need you.
Yes, because this isn't Call of Duty, this is Battlefield game. So there's many vehicles and many abilities that you can use to be helpful to your team. Not just by killing the enemy players, but also with the capturing control points and being an active team player. That's the best part about this game, helping your team and your squad to win the game.
A good way to do this is also by playing as a squad.
Yes, that's very important to join squads, and if nobody else created a squad, then try to create your own and invite other players to join it. And if you are part of a squad, you should try to stay near your squad leader and protect him, because he is acting as a spawn point for your squad mates. So he needs to play in a very cautious way. But the point is, try to stay in squads, create squads, join squads. That's a very key feature of this game.
Something a little bit more general is of course that you should be aware of your firing mode. Single fire is of course preferred, since it's more accurate. But of course, burst and auto fire are also useful sometimes.
Yes, you have to keep in mind that unlike modern games, in this game, when you keep firing your weapon, when you hold the click on the mouse and you are in automatic mode, the bullets will spread a lot. There is a lot of bullet spread and deviation in this game. So that's why single fire mode, so tapping your mouse for each individual bullet, most of the times turns out to be better in order to kill enemies, rather than spraying your whole magazine at them, because out of 30 bullets in your clip, maybe 5 will hit him. So best to click 5 times, but you are on point all of those times, instead of just releasing all your bullets and they go left and right, top and bottom.
On that subject, going into a stationary position like prone is of course helping your accuracy. So you should really go down if you want to hit the target.
Oh yeah, exactly. If you don't move, it's better. Your gun will be more stable. If you crouch or you're prone, the bullets will also be deviated less. But if you are moving and shooting at the same time, the bullets may not go exactly where you are aiming. Especially if you are a sniper and you move, the bullet is not always going to hit where the reticule is pointing at if you are moving and firing at the same time.
Another thing you should know about guns is of course the caliber. A small gun doesn't damage a helicopter. Only a heavy weapon can do that.
Yes, exactly. Your small caliber weapons are to be used against infantry, so don't waste your small caliber ammunition against tanks or helicopters, because you're not going to damage. You need to play with the correct kit that has weaponry specifically designed to kill vehicles in order to do some damage to them.
Another thing you should know about this game is that, unlike many modern Battlefield games, the unlockable weapons are not better in this game. Most of the time they are just a matter of what you prefer.
Don't be frustrated by the grind the game has in order to unlock the other weapons, because it's not like, again, in other modern games where unlocks are oftentimes better and more powerful. In this game, you can do very well with the default weapons that you have, the stock guns, as we call them. It's just a preference of what the weapon looks like. Sometimes they fire in different modes, but it's not like the unlocks are overpowered compared to the stock guns. So just play and have fun, and as we will say later, keep in mind you can pick up the kits from the fallen enemies or teammates, and you will actually be able to use their unlocked gun if they have it equipped.
As you mentioned before, firing your normal gun at the tank will not damage it. For that you have to hit it with an anti-tank missile, and the best spot to do that is from behind or the side.
Yes, the rear part of the tank has less armor plating, and the tracks of the tanks are also the weakest spot that you can hit, but of course it's a very tricky shot to do.
During your matches you will sometimes have the situation that an enemy drops some mines directly in front of you. But luckily you can kill him. In that case you can swap your kit with the dead engineer by pressing G and use his wrench to disable the mines. Also, if a friendly medic is down, you can use his medic kit and revive him. That way you are not only a nice team player, but also will not suffer any ticket losses. Another quick general tip would be, look always at your minimap, especially if you have movement far away and you are uncertain if it's a friendly or an enemy target.
Yes, this is important because the minimap can also give you sometimes the enemy position if other team players or the commander have spotted the enemy player or the enemy vehicle. So having always an eye on your minimap can save you from facing a tank around the corner or some infantry that is lurking nearby. So that's an important tip.
The game of course tells you how to sprint, but there are two things which it won't tell you. One is that you can use the sprint function in water, and second, if you're on a ladder you can use the sprint key to slide down much faster. Of course those two are not really game changers, but they can save your ass. Another way of getting down off a roof quickly is by jumping. You would think, but then I'm dead. But no, for that emergency you have an unlimited supply of parachutes in your backpack. So press 9 every time you jump from a high building.
But pay attention to the way you're jumping down, because the parachute is actually an object inside of the game. And so to be deployed, it needs space. So when you jump down, if you're jumping in a narrow corridor, you press 9 key, the parachute cannot deploy because there is not enough space. So when you jump down, make sure you are either facing the building or the building is behind you, so that the parachute can be deployed and has enough space to open. Otherwise you will be splatting on the ground.
During the rounds, if you are near enemy or friendly installations, you should always check if you have the ability to destroy them, and of course you should always defend and repair your own stuff.
Yes, if you're the engineer and you see yellow assets marked on the map, that means that your friendly assets have been damaged. And so if you have a commander, he will not be able to use them to their full capability. For example, artillery, there are 3 different pieces on the map, and if they're all destroyed, you don't have artillery. If 2 are destroyed or 1, you will have weaker artillery. So if you are friendly, you can repair them. Instead, if you are enemy, you can try to sabotage them with explosives.
Another important thing you should know is that you can heal, repair and supply your team even if you're inside a vehicle.
In particular, if you're a medic, you can heal the people that are with you in the driver's seat or in the passenger's seat. Instead, if you are engineer or support, you can give ammunition to those inside and those around you, including other vehicles that you can resupply. And if you are an engineer, you can repair other vehicles that are driving next to you. But when you do this, also keep in mind that if there are, for example, enemy jets, they will see, if they are in bomb mode, they will see that there are 2 close vehicles to each other, and they may be tempted to bomb you. So always have awareness of if there are enemy jets throwing bombs around, because they may drop it on you when you repair another vehicle.
Talking quickly about another important aspect of the game, the ticket system. Not only do enemy tickets drop down by killing the enemy soldiers, but also by holding the majority of the flags. But please keep in mind that also works the other way around.
Yes, that situation is called the ticket bleeding inside the game, and you notice it when the ticket indicators on the top right are flashing and they're going down much faster than normal. The normal speed of the tickets when they go down is because your enemies are getting killed. And by the way, there are some kills inside of the game that make the ticket decrease immediately. Why? Because that player has been killed in a way that it is not revivable by a medic. When that happens, the ticket goes down immediately.
Another thing you will often encounter in this game are claymores. So every time you enter a building, you should maybe go down.
Because when you go prone on the ground, the claymore will not explode. And this is very useful. If you are engineer, you will actually have an indicator on your HUD that indicates there are explosives in the area. This means that there may be a claymore or a mine or C4, and in the case of claymores, in order to disable them, you can pick your wrench if you're engineer, go prone and disable the claymore so that it will not kill other teammates.
What also happens a lot during the matches if you play with the commander are artillery strikes.
You will be able to tell the difference between a friendly and an enemy artillery by simply looking again, as we said before, in the minimap, because the friendly artillery will have a red indicator on the minimap, and when it rains down, typically it will not hurt you because friendly fire is not turned on. Instead, if you see that the artillery shells are coming down but there is no indicator, then that's an enemy artillery, and so you have to pay attention. If you are still alive, run away.
This is also a good place to tell you again, use the voice system and tell your team that there is an artillery strike at that position. What you should also know if you have installed this game for the first time, that you shouldn't give in to the temptation of flying. Flying in this game is very hard.
The best way to earn it is to play on an empty server because, as we said before, the most important part of Battlefield is playing as a team. Therefore, if you're not able to pilot an aircraft effectively, then you are also not helping your team a lot because someone else who is more experienced can use that asset in order to win the battle. So when you need to practice, try to do it in a separate server that has no players, or you can try to use a single player as well. Some maps should have the jets or helicopters that you can train onto without destroying the gameplay of other players in the server.
As with many other games, if you keep on dying during a match, the best way to approach this problem is by changing your tactics.
For example, change class. If there are some vehicles attacking you, then it makes sense to go and redeploy as anti-tank so you can take the vehicles down. Or if a spawn point is getting attacked, you can either try to defend it, as I said just now, or you can try to redeploy on another spawn point where there are no enemies, and perhaps you can take a friendly vehicle and go to defend or attack the spawn point that you just lost. You have to help your team in every way possible, and sometimes this means that you have to change your strategy, change your class. Do not always play the same class in the match if it's not needed. You can have some variability in your playstyle if you want.
Our last general tip would be patient. The game is really hard to learn, and sadly it has some problems like grenade spamming and network problems. So the best way to start playing is by joining a community or a friend who can always help you.
This is very true, and as we said before, communicate with your teammates. Write in the chat, or better, use VoIP to talk to your squad mates. Chances are that somebody in your squad is an experienced player and is able to guide you through all the tips that we basically gave you before. Right there in the battle can give you suggestions as to what to do, what kit to deploy with, and what strategies to use to win the battle.
Now moving on to the tips for the different classes. The medic one is definitely the easiest one for a new player, since you can always heal yourself and be useful as a new player.
That's correct, because a soldier that is alive usually helps more than a soldier that is dead. This applies to you as much as it applies to your teammates. So you'll be able to get back to full health if somebody shot you, and you'll be able to revive your friendlies that have fallen down in case an enemy shot them down.
That way you can learn, of course, the gameplay very easily. because you have more health for yourself. Always keep in mind that you keep one med pack for yourself so you don't run out of healing abilities.
And you also make sure to drop medipacks when you have them so that other teammates around you can benefit from that medipack on the ground.
And the last tip for that class would be, of course, the defibrillator not only can heal, but it can also kill the enemy.
Yes, it's not easy to do it, but the shock paddles can appear sometime in the kill feed because you zap an enemy. If you are using the defibrillator to revive a teammate instead, always try to see if the area is safe before you revive him, because if there is still an enemy around that has his sights on your friend and on you, then you're just going to feed him 2 free kills, and then you will both have to wait the respawn time in order to get back. Instead, if you don't revive your teammate and try to kill the enemy, the teammate will be redeployed a bit faster because he is already waiting to get a redeployment, and you will try to kill the enemy that is about to shoot you if you revive your teammate. You have to always be aware of this situation, that sometimes someone is watching you revive someone and maybe throwing a nade or going to spray you, so make sure the area is safe before you revive a fallen teammate.
The next class for beginners is the anti-tank class. We already mentioned that you should hit an enemy tank from the back or the side, but what we didn't mention is that you can guide your missiles to the target.
When you fire the rocket launcher on your shoulder, which is part of the anti-tank class, you can actually stay in the zoom mode with the right mouse button, and when you're in this mode and you fire, you can actually guide your missile by holding the left mouse button that you use to fire, and then move your aim to where the enemy helicopter or tank is, and your missile will follow the aim of the reticle of the missile launcher.
And the last, not too complicated class for beginners is of course the assault class, and I guess everybody knows what an assault class does. It kills the enemy.
But what should not be forgotten is that the assault class has smoke grenades. This is a perk that only belongs to the assault class, and you can use them, for example, to cover an alley where you have to cross, or an open area that you have to cross and you're worried about snipers, or if you are capturing a flag, you can hide in the smoke cloud in order to capture it without getting killed or sniped.
Talking about the first class, which is a little bit more complicated, is the support class. The problem with that class is that the primary weapon is very inaccurate. Only fire a few shots at the enemy and never go full auto here.
Exactly, because otherwise the bullet spread on the support guns is very wide. So you want to fire short bursts at the enemies and always stay in cover, otherwise they'll obviously be able to shoot you back. And I would say the key feature of the support class is that you carry ammo boxes, and so you can resupply yourself, but most importantly, since you must be a team player, you should always try to resupply enemy soldiers and also enemy vehicles. You can throw an ammo box at a tank or an helicopter and they will swallow it, they will take it like a pill and they will replenish their ammunition.
Just like in real life.
Yeah, exactly.
The next class would be the Special Forces. This one is an infiltration class where you can use the C4 to destroy easily enemy installations or vehicles.
Usually the enemy assets that you find oftentimes in the main bases of your enemies can be destroyed with the 2 C4 sticks. You can also sabotage enemy vehicles if you like, but usually the point of the Special Forces or Spec Ops class is to be stealthy and sneaky and go behind enemy lines without being seen and sabotaging the assets that the enemy commander can use against your teammates in order to hit them with artillery strikes or reveal their positions with the scan, the UAV and so forth. So you can actually be a team player by going behind the enemy lines and destroying these kinds of assets with your explosives.
A good tactic if you're more on the suicide side of the gameplay, you can cover a fast car with C4, get it close to the enemy and enjoy the firework.
Yes, this works well against tanks. Sometimes, if it's hard to approach them on foot with your C4, you can try to deliver the C4 a little bit quicker via a car, and we call this inside the game the jihad car technique. Personally, perhaps it's better if you don't do this all of the game, because from the other side it becomes a little bit annoying.
Another thing you should always blow up are bridges.
Yes, this is very important that you blow up bridges when, for example, the enemy team is blocked at last flag. You can either decide to blow up the bridge so the enemy vehicles cannot cross, but keep in mind that your friendly land vehicles will not also be able to cross. Or if there is a strategic bridge that leads to one of your flags, what you can do is to blow up the bridge so that the enemy land vehicles will not be able to attack it.
One class very important for this game, but very hard to play because it's very vulnerable since it doesn't have a good primary weapon, is the engineer. Here you should always be close to other vehicles so you can heal your team, and work always in pairs so you can heal each other.
This works well when you are both driving a vehicle, for example a tank or an APC. If both pilots of these vehicles are engineers, they'll be able to repair each other. And like we mentioned before, be aware of the enemy aircraft, because if there are some jets or worse, some bombers that see two enemy vehicles together, they will be more inclined to drop bombs on you. So pay attention to your surrounding at all times.
As we already mentioned, with your wrench you can disable enemy mines and claymores, but what we didn't mention is how you should use your mines.
For example, when you drop your mines, you can hide them in some shadow areas of the map, like under, if you have shadows of a tree, or in some bushes. You can put the mine there, and chances are that enemy vehicles will not be able to see the mine, and so they will walk over it. You can also put the mines in front of vehicles that can be taken by the enemy, and you will take them by surprise, because when they get into the vehicle they will explode because they will drive on the mine. This works well when you're trying to attack or defend a flag.
The last class is of course the sniper. This class we really can't recommend for beginners.
Yes, because this class is not very easy, especially if you're not used to be a sniper with your mouse and the sensitivity, but also because unfortunately this game has a problem which we call scope lag, and it happens when you zoom in your reticle. You will see that your aim jumps, it sort of skips. So you have to keep this in mind when you're looking around and scoping for a target, that it's perhaps better to first look at it with your hip fire mode, and then when you are already in the direction of the enemy you want to hit, then you zoom in. This way this scope lag will be minimized.
Another tip is don't go too far away from your team or you will run out of ammunition very fast.
And also because unlike newer games, in Battlefield 2 there is a limitation of the render distance of the game, and oftentimes you will see that far away after 100 or 200 meters there is a fog which will prevent you to see enemies. So long distance sniping isn't really the point of this game, and like Sedari said, you will run out of ammo, you may not do many kills, which we also said is not the main focus of the game. So try to stay in a place where you can cover a lot of the area of the map. You can see a lot of enemies by staying also under cover, of course.
The last thing we would like to mention for this class is that if you are very lucky, you can shoot out the pilot of any aircraft. But should you have enough of the stressful life as a foot soldier, you can always try to apply as a commander.
As usual, you can practice this feature, the commanding position, in single player or in empty servers where you can see what each ability does. But in multiplayer, most of the times you have to play and to get experience when there are other players. But a useful tip, or rather a note, some servers will actually not allow you to go commander unless there's quite a bit of players on the server. So if you see that you apply and you are immediately resigned, it's possible the server is limiting the number of players needed in order to unlock the commander position.
If you are lucky enough to unlock this role, you should keep in mind that you're still a team, so please share all your information with your squad leaders.
Yes, you can actually talk via the radio to every squad leader. It works that you talk to all of them at the same time. You cannot have an individual radio channel with squad A or squad B. You will talk to them and they will be able to talk back to you. So if you need to relay some information, you can either use the spot feature, or if you don't want to obsess all the players with the spotting sounds, because unfortunately for every spot that you make, radio cue will be played in everyone's ears, you can deliver this information by VoIP to your squad leader, and they will be able to tell it to their squad mates if they are in the area that is of interest.
Another tip if you play as a commander is that you know the map, especially the spawn locations.
And also you should be able to remember that each vehicle has a respawn time, and if you manage to memorize these timings, you can actually be more effective as a commander, for example with the artillery ability.
Being at the subject of artillery, you shouldn't also fire every time the artillery into blind spots, especially if it's around a spawn area where your team is spawning.
Exactly. It's best perhaps to save the artillery for when you need it, so you should use the other abilities that you have, which are the scan and the UAV, in order to reveal the position of the enemies and understand if perhaps they're going to attack one of your flags. Then it will be a good idea to defend it with an artillery strike.
But not only the artillery can kill, also a dropping car will kill enemy infantry and even a helicopter.
Yes, this is something that a very skilled commander can actually do, and in Battlefield 2 we call this cartillery.
And if you even run out with cars, you can hit the enemy with supply crates, which will also kill them, and it has the benefit of repairing all your own stuff.
Yes, the supply crate, when it falls down, it can actually squash an enemy or friendly player, so pay attention to that. Also pay attention when you drop it down, it will not actually land exactly where you clicked. It will land a bit on the northeast side of your pointer on the map.
A tip for ability we didn't mention until now is the UAV, which should always be dropped over the majority of enemy players.
A little bit of an advanced tip, just like the friendly artillery has a red indicator when you place it down, the UAV also has an indicator that your friendlies can see. This indicator sometimes can cover the spots of an enemy infantry, so try to click in a spot that may not block the icons of enemy soldiers.
We should also mention one of the best class to play as a commander is the engineer, where you can repair your own stuff and don't need the help of other players. Our last tip should be coming from you, Shark, as you are a community leader.
And that would be, if you are a commander, usually it's not very useful if you sit inside of a vehicle, because other friendly players can use it to actually deploy it in battle. Another important thing is that most servers do not allow a fighting commander. A fighting commander is a commander that uses his abilities but also behaves as a normal soldier, so attacking flags, driving vehicles. So when you are a commander, you are expected to act like one and stay on the USA carrier or inside your airfield. You have to be in a hidden position most of the times so that the enemy commander perhaps cannot artillery you or drop a supply on you and squash you, but you don't have to stay occupying a vehicle or driving vehicles into battle. Do your job as a commander, or otherwise become a squad leader or a normal team member and play normal.
As we already mentioned the name a few times, I think it's now time to go to the squad leader tips. As a squad leader, you should always give orders by pressing T or caps lock.
If you're pressing T, you will see a combo rows on the HUD, and you'll be able to put markers on the terrain where you're able to put your aim at. Instead, if you need to mark down an enemy flag that is far away and you cannot see it, you can press caps lock and you will see the squad menu, and with the right click of the mouse button you'll be able to assign orders in a specific place of the map.
But if you're new in the game and you don't have an idea where to order your team, fear not. Your friendly commander can also give you orders, and most of the time they do so. Another very important fact about the squad leader is that you shouldn't rush into the combat. The important part of the leader is don't die. You are the spawn point.
Exactly. Sometimes you may be tempted to attack the enemy, but if you die and you don't have any friendly medic around you to revive you, then you lose a valuable spot on the map that your squad mates can use to spawn and to help you capture a flag or help you to kill an enemy tank. You don't always have to do the job yourself. You're the leader, you give orders, but you don't necessarily have to rush into battle head on all the time. Stay back, take your time, and think about your squad mates.
But don't think only about your squad mates, also think about the commander, what he wants you to do.
That's right, because the commander oftentimes has a better grasp of the whole battlefield, so he may have a strategy or he may know about enemy movements, and therefore when he gives you some orders, oftentimes he has a good reason to direct your squad into a certain spot. So work closely with the commander in order to win the battle.
And if you're ever in a tight situation, you can always ask the commander for UAV support, supply drops, or even a vehicle drop.
Exactly, you can do it always from the T menu, or as we mentioned before, the squad leader actually has a dedicated radio with the commander that you can talk to. So you can say, I'm from squad B, I would need vehicle drop at this position, and you give him the name of a flag, for example, or you ask him for supplies or UAV via the VoIP or using the common rows.
And the last thing we would like to mention is, if you're a new player, you create a new squad, and yeah, you're feeling very lonely, you can go on Tinder. You can invite other lone players to join your squad.
Actually, if you open the score tab, the tab key, on the top there are three menus that you can select for the scoreboard, and one of them is called unassigned, and it will let you see which players are not assigned to any squads, so you can direct your invites to them and most likely they will join. Instead, if you start inviting players from other squads, it is unlikely that they will drop their existing squad in order to join yours.
Well, Chuck, I guess that's all of the tips we have.
For today, yes. Perhaps in the comment section we will be able to reply to any questions that the viewers may have or people in the future may submit, and we will be happy to help you to improve your gameplay at Battlefield. But most importantly, there are still many communities in this game that you can find, for example, on Reddit. There will be a pinned post that you can visit, and by playing with them, they will obviously be able to give you a lot more of advanced scenarios and tips that can help you to become a deadly Battlefield player.
And as I mentioned already in the beginning of this video, this is a new series. This is a new experiment, so of course it's a little bit more clunky than our other videos, so we are open to redo this at any time, especially if we get more tips, more feedback from you. But in general, I would say that's it for this video. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think about the game, and of course, play the game. Until next time.
Bye bye.